Hello, and welcome to my first TraegerMethod long form painting video. By long form, I mean more than a minute long. Typically, the painting videos I've produced for Instagram, 1 minute long. This one runs closer to a half hour. I'm presenting this painting session at 500 times or 5 times speed. Here we are watching a face emerge. Something very magical about painting spontaneous faces. I love when they come out with a personality or a style, or a mouth is formed that makes the eyes look different, the eyes make the nose. I mean, everything's relative. It's just like colors. Colors change in relation to the colors they are near. Forms take on different meanings and associations depending on the forms that surround them, the context. A face is a collection of parts and a whole. I'm not going to overthink my narration on these videos. These are one take, free association talks. This hat, what is it? Looks like a loaf of bread, a log, chocolate bar, some kind of device. Putting in that plane to give it a harder corner there. I love gadgets, devices, the looks of them. You know, the kind of boxes you see on the sides of buildings that they're not exactly, it's not exactly apparent what they are. A little box with some metal tube pipes coming out of it down the walls and wires. What is it? Our environment is in cities and the modern world are so filled with gadgets and cords and cables. You know, sometimes I look at my paintings and I think, why are there always these vines and cords and cables? But then I walk around in the world and I go, well, that's why, because it's how it is. We're made of veins, among other things, tubes, guts. So is the outside world. The video quality, not the greatest. I will dial it in more. The lighting, there's a lot of obnoxious glare in this video, and I'm just doing it down and dirty these days. I'm not really sweating. You know, we're on quarantine or whatever, social distancing, lockdown. Not really obsessed with entertainment as much as I am just hangs. Just, you know, creating painting chill sessions. You can listen only, you don't even have to watch. You can watch only, you don't have to listen. Whatever you want. Who cares? Like I said, I love painting faces. This face, right there, he's got the unibrow. So it has a distinctly East Asian look, maybe. I might set out with an idea of what a face is going to look like, but then it tends to determine. I've started out thinking I'll do an old man, and it ends up being a young woman. Really, it's just not. It's not important either. This looks awfully dull, doesn't it? The quality of the light, kind of grainy. See how the brush jumps around. It's not like I just fixate on the face and only touch that. I'm going to jump around like crazy because colors can fit all throughout a composition. As I was saying with emerging faces, trusting the hand, the brush, almost like get out of the way and let it happen. I do that with color too. Like I can approach, when you put paint on a brush, they call it loading the brush. I could see a place on a painting and say, okay, I want to mix a greenish blue to go here. So then I'll go to the palette and mix a greenish blue and bring it over and start painting it on. Other times I go to the palette and I load the brush without even thinking where it's going to go. Then I turn to the canvas and I see a place for it. Put it in. If those colors are active on the canvas, then there's always a place for a brush that's got some kind of interesting yellow or gray or brown or blue or anything, any color. Here's a face coming in. It looks like a cartoonish demon or something. Again, I don't remember this is a voiceover. I'm not speaking in real time, of course. But yeah, of course, this is going 5 times faster than normal. So yeah. Again, right now I just had this tongue coming. Fork tongue, then I went, now fork that. Took the tongue out, I guess. Get rid of that. Put a mouth back in. You just kind of push and pull towards a satisfying arrangement of pigment. It's a term I use all the time when talking about painting, pushing and pulling. Pull up highlights, push them back, pull them back up. Move towards colors you might like. Move towards forms that make sense, that are exciting in some way, interesting, foundational. Now he looks like he's got smeared lipstick. It's kind of cool. He's got a kind of Frankenstein look coming in. I think Boris Karloff, Frankenstein. When I think about painting influences as I'm painting, I'm always thinking about old masters, stuff like that. I rarely think of well, I mostly think of old master types. Grant Wood, famous for American Gothic, among others. Grant Wood is an influence. He's someone I've been looking at a lot lately. That's a pretty cool face. It's kind of skull-like. Reminds me of the face of the guy who plays Brown, the character Brown, on the Steve Brule, Dr. Steve Brule comedy series. An amazing face, a very menacing, bizarre character, Brown. Speaking of Brown, painting with Brown. Working on a large series of paintings that began as brown and white paintings. I've been adding color to them. This is not one of those paintings, this painting. This one, the title of it, have I showed the entire composition? I guess not. Maybe I should put a drop-in inset. Maybe I will. TraegerMethod. This painting used to be called History Biscuits. This is a painting that has had so many versions painted over. I'll definitely do a montage of that. Maybe we'll take a break around now, the midway point. We'll do a montage of what it took to get to this place I am now. Little highlights, tiny highlights. Color chords, there's limited colors to define certain bodies. I do that a lot with faces nowadays. This is a green and white face. This is a purple and white face. This is a purple, pink, blue face. Do one that's just precise, a gray scale or a brown scale. Value scales, dark to light, light to dark. The nose looks very flat on the face to the left. Oh, we switched. There's a bigger look at the larger composition. See the two faces down in the right-hand corner. That's where we were working. Now I'm moving over to the left hand side, my left, looking at the painting, our left. Got this basket going, filled with discs, coins. For years, for decades, I should say, that's been a repeated theme. These discs flying, these coins, often portrayed as gold coins. What do they mean to me? Well, value. They're cells, we're cells, cells within a body, a whole. They can fly through the air. They can add depth. They can portray space. They can add movement to a painting. They're just useful things. They're pleasing. They can be as ornate or as simple as you want. They can be see-through, opaque. This one, did I mention? Yeah, history biscuits. That was what it was called at one point, and it was filled with these kind of cake-like biscuits, quote unquote, moving through a composition. I don't think any of those. Maybe the basket began as one of those. I'd have to look at old photos, but yeah, I mean these paintings are intensely worked. I would not want to take one off a stretcher bar and roll it up. And I wouldn't trust that it wouldn't crack. I mean, many layers. This is a thick painting. A lot of my I think my paintings will be smoother going forward. New ones that I begin in the next little while, if I survive the pandemic, that is. I will do flat or smoother paintings. These are very layered, rough, a lot of carbuncles, nipples over the surface, bumps, lumps, lines. Though from a distance especially, my paintings look pretty precise, like strong lines, sharp edges and stuff. But seen in person, they still look that way, but you also see the dimension of what do you call it? The roughness of the surface. You can see it there over on the right-hand side, the glare. That's a bit of I'm blocking it now, but the glare, you can kind of see the lumps and bumps. Here's some faces. Very loose. You're just suggesting shadows and forms, planes. Very not precious at all. Not overthinking anything about colors or anything. Blues, reds, grays, greens, who cares? Dull middle colors are fine too. You don't have to mess with all the highlights and stuff come last. So the purer colors, the more what do you call it? Unmixed or high key. And a dull underpainting makes the highlights stand out. So it's not something I don't know what I was going to say. It's not something you have to worry about, I guess. It's just, oil paints are about layers. The way I paint, sorry, yawning. The way I paint, it's about layers. So there's wet into wet, just cool face, skull shape, head shape. Side views are very cool. I like it. That's cool. Highlights. You see, that's what I mean about a highlight popping on a dull, kind of bleached out there. But there's something very satisfying about a dull, mid-range color and then putting very high radiant colors, highlights on that. It just pops like crazy. It's like a special effect. Gamblin. Sorry. Oh god. Sorry. Gamblin Paints here in Portland, Oregon. They're an oil paint maker. Gamblin has a line of paints called Radiant colors, the Radiant Green, Radiant Blue, Radiant paint, Green, etc. And they're pretty cool for that. Use them along with a white or instead of a white. So I'm not focusing on any one area. I'm not fussing too long on any spot. I'm jumping around within a certain section of the painting. I mean, probably more because I was filming this section. So I kind of made a mental note to stay in this region. Because right now, for all I know, I might be painting some other section. Like when I disappear from the screen for longer time. Put in some dark. You know, you're just making mental. You're looking and you go, okay, this, that, and that. Darken those, highlight that, add some of this, add some of that, and then you go to the palette, execute. Then you make more lists. You go, and I'm talking just, this is all just quick mental lists. Okay, dull that down, up and put some highlights on the things, you know, do the forehead, wipe that off. It's very pleasing, this series of decision making. Fill in this part, dull it down. Going in on the faces there. There's like a woman's face here, younger woman. This is just your generic white guy. This one behind the tape. One on the end facing away. Kind of see that in this video, but it's a side view of the face facing towards the top left of the composition. One of the cool things about faces is you naturally follow their gaze, so they create a bunch of, if they have a gaze, you know, if they're not just looking down or asleep. I often paint closed eyes. But they create invisible lines of direction across the composition. Face, eyes looking a certain direction. That's a line. I mean, my paintings can seem busy because there's so many lines. You know, there's like like I was saying, the vines, the tubes, the veins, edges directing the eye this way and that way. And then on top of that, you got the faces with the eyes casting glances that create lines. So there's just zigzags and loop-de-loops, and which I figure, you know, you got to do because people, for a painting to compete in the visual world we live in, it's got to really kick ass in that way, you know. where no one's going to want to look at it. These are rock and roll paintings, people. These are rock and roll. This is punk, dude. Putting in that face behind the tape. Now I'm working around that tape, with the holes in it. Working around it, trying to preserve it. I generally try and preserve a thing until it becomes unnecessary or not worth it. Like you see, I'm working on a face here. I can't worry about this completely. See, I'm going over it. I'm going over the tape. Because what I'm thinking to myself is like, well, the face needs free-flowing painting. It needs to be created unfettered. And the tape, on the other hand, is completely simple. It's just a color gel. So you can put that over the head, the face, once it's detailed. Once it's done, then put the tape over that. The way I paint, I do think in terms of like a dollhouse, for instance. You got the structure, the dollhouse itself, then you got decorations in the dollhouse, then you put characters in the dollhouse, dolls. And you dress the dolls and put, look at this guy's got a long nose. See that? Look at that. Totally unexpected. Didn't plan for that. It wasn't like, I just went, this is a painting. It can be anything you want. There's the nose shadow. That's cool. It can be anything you want. Give the guy a long nose. It's a dream. Who cares? This isn't reality. This is a painting. So that's cool. What was I saying? I was saying, dress the dolls. Like I'll do a lot of bald heads and let them dry, and then I put hair on them. That way you can have a nice clean hair color, like a nice black hair on a green head, pink hair, whatever, blonde, you name it. All right, well, oh God, I'm so sorry. This is my first long form painting, and I'm yawning all the way through it. My sleep has been slightly odd chunks during the pandemic lockdown. Okay.